G'day, welcome back. I'd especially like to welcome my new subscribers, and I hope you enjoy the content on my channel. If you missed the last video, there's a link up there now. You can go watch that first, then come back and watch this one. Alrighty, so in this video I want to revisit the mini surface grinder I tried to build a while back, which I kind of got the shits with and pushed to one side. So follow me over the bench and we'll take a look at that. Alrighty, so if you missed this build, and it was a while back, I think this is what I made in part one. I can't remember, it was from memory, a 4-part video, and I'll put a link up the top up now to part one. You can go back and watch that if you want to. So the way this thing works is this attaches to the mill, and it's all run off a little power box, a 12 volt power box got sitting up on the wall up here. Every part of this is run for 12 volts. And it just clamps onto the base of the spindle in the mill. So it doesn't use the motor in the mill, it uses a little 12 volt motor in here. And everything in here, like I said, is run off 12 volts. Now, one of the problems was I didn't get this shaft right, and it's a bit bloody wobbly. So I'm going to have to remake this shaft and reconfigure this a bit in here, come up with a better bearing set for it. And I also want to get rid of these silly rails on this thing. While I was making this, I actually forgot that I had this lying around. I'd seen it going cheap somewhere and bought it and forgot all about it. Promptly forgot about it. And I've got 4 bearings to go with this. There's another one there somewhere, I'll go find out later. But I've only got this one of these, but I'll just cut that in half and I'll set it back up using this rather than these things are a bit too flimsy. Now, this is an electromagnet that I built from, they're actually magnetic door locks, and again, just run off 12 volts. This is a step down geared motor because I was having massive problems trying to get this to track at the right speed. It was going way too fast, and that was the last thing I did, was put that on there and have a play with it. Never ever got around to fitting up properly, so it needs to be reworked. And we, with a lot of help from an electrical engineer in the States, he helped me sort out the mechanism, which is all run out of this box here with 3 relays in it, so that once you turn it on, it will just move backwards and forwards slowly by itself. And all of this is just bolted to the table, so as you grind something, you can just wind the table across to get it right. But anyway, that's what we're going to do. So I think first up I need to pull this apart and rework this section here and make a new shaft for that. Alrighty, so if you saw the video when I made this tool holder, it's got some really horrible cuts. I've actually made a couple of cuts on there now with both these tools, and I've got decent finishes again. All we did was adjust up the gibs on the cross slide. Anyway, this is the original shaft I made, and I'm going to change it a bit. I want to put the same size bearings both ends. Originally I had a piece of little like skateboard size bearing on this end, 8mm hole through it, and on this end they're 12mm bearings, centre of 12mm. But I'm going to put 12mm both sides, and what I'm going to do is put a flange on the back end and then machine it down to 8mm on the back side, which is where the pulley goes. And then up this end I want to put a nut, a screw-on nut, to make sure I can adjust out any slop and infloat in the bearings. And then it'll have a thread on the end for the nut to hold the wheel on. Probably should have done something about this cut and tapers before I did this. That is 7/100th oversize, and that is 21/100th oversize. So we'll get that down to size and then check it with the bearings, and I might put a little, there'll be 2 bearings sitting just here, and then a space and another bearing. So what I can do is cut the bit here to suit the 2 bearings, put a little undercut in it, and then cut this bit here. I'll get around that. Alright, I stopped it there because just here is where that first bearing's got to sit. Oh, look at that, we're about 1.5 hundredths over. I'll finish the cut and I'll bring you back when I get a bit closer. Alrighty, there we got it, and I got there without needing the undercut. Got to bore the back of this out to take this bigger bearing yet, so that's the same bearing as the front ones. Beautiful, perfect. Alrighty, because I don't really want it to be a press fit on the shaft, just a nice slip bit up there. Righto, so now I need to turn the front down and get ready to thread this bit here. Alright, so I've hit a bit of a snag. I was going to put a thread on here so that I can make a little nut up to preload the bearings, but I can't do that. So what I'll do is I'll make a sleeve up. I've come back here 1/2 mil inside where the bearings should finish, and so I'll make a little sleeve up, so when I tighten the wheel up, it will hopefully preload the bearing at the same time if I get it right. Now, so all I need to do now is undercut it, put a thread on this end, and we'll be right. That end of it will be done. I've made the thread a bit longer on this one. Oh, doesn't matter. Cutting oil. Alrighty, let's see how this fits. Rubbish trucks out the front if you wonder what all that noise is. Now that's got to sit forward just a little bit to allow for this washer to push on the sleeve and pre-tension it. So I think I might need to undercut that just a little bit more. That looks pretty bloody good to me. Oh. I'll lit that with a fire. Alrighty, so that's that end done. Yeah, like I said, I left that a little bit long, and I'll chop it off when I figure out just where that needs to sit, because this is a slightly different arrangement to what I had before. So that's the new shaft done, all ready to rock. So now I need to mill out the back of that housing so I can fit a new bearing. Alrighty, after an hour and a half of messing with this morning, I've finally got it a configuration that I can work with and got it all lined up. So here goes nothing. I've got to take an extra millimetre or 1/2 millimetre out of the bottom of that, and I was hoping I'd be able to cut it with this. Doesn't look like it wants to. 3.2, we've got to get out to 28, or just under 28. I should have around 1/2 millimetre to go. 27.5. 7.66. Start the dice with death here. Start the dice with a loose fitting bearing. .9, and I think I'm going to leave it at that because that should push in there at that, I hope. Right, now do something about boring this hole out in the bottom here. So hopefully that's deep enough. 8.2, it's supposed to only 8mm, but 8.2 just to allow for a bit of those steps in there. Alrighty, so that bearing pressed in there very nicely, went in there, just it didn't take much effort to push it in, but it was a press fit, and that shaft fits in there perfectly. So now I just need to make up the little shim that goes in here, so that when I do the wheel up, it'll pre-tension this and get rid of any end float that's in it. At the moment there's absolutely none in it at all, no wobble, no nothing, so I'm pretty happy about that. At this point in the video, I'd like to thank my patrons for the continued support. It's greatly appreciated. If you'd like to become a patron, there's a link down in the description. You can sign up down there and toss me a couple of dollars every month. If you don't want to become a patron, there's always Buy Me a Coffee, and there's a QR code on the screen there. You can scan that, or there's always that thanks button down there. Alrighty, so I've got this all set up nicely now. Feels really, really nice. No end float, no wobble, no nothing. So now that I've got that back together like that, I'll put all of this assembly back together and fit it up, and we'll see how it runs. Alrighty, so if you didn't see the earlier videos, this is how it mounts up on here, and just been running it. That box is a bit hot. Might have to find a better way to ventilate that. Anyway, here goes. So there's plenty of grunt, still a bit noisy, but I think all of these aluminium covers don't help that any. Anyway, so that's that side of it done. Now I need to move on to the base and the magnet and everything else. Alrighty, so I've stripped this damn thing down to its bare components, and come to a conclusion that I'm going to have to do some major modifications to this. I've cut this rail in half and had a look at these bearings there. They're bolting from the top, so it's going to be, is this a wobbly? I'm going to adjust that one. I'm going to have to bolt them to a plate. Bolt them to a plate and then bolt the plate to this. It's the only way I can do it. And I'm going to have to re-drill all of these, and these brackets that I used before to mount it onto the other table won't fit. I'll have to remake them, so I'll have to pay a visit to my local scrappy and find a couple of bits of steel that I can use to make some new strips for here for both ends, and then get stuck into it from there. But there's quite a few hours work in that, and like I said, I don't have the steel to do that with, so I might call this to a close today. I'll make this a two-part video. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure you give it a great big thumbs up, and I'll see you all next week. Bye bye.